Hey, how's it going?
How are you?
Good, good. My name is Niger of Big Gold Belt Media, and it's a pleasure to talk to you today. I
Thanks for
am
having me.
very excited to talk about this documentary docu-series. I've been flipping between the two of it, but nonetheless, the BMF documentary Blowing Money Fast got a ton of questions, a little bit of time, so let's get right to it. Now, I would
All
love to know just how much content were you able to work with this, and how much do you have left?
right. Yeah. We, we were very lucky to have willing participants, right? Like, so there was a lot of folks that were coming, that came with footage, and the family were on board from the very beginning. So we were able to get amazing photographs, even family recordings of Charles Flenory from the pops, as they called him,
Yeah.
Meech's father. So that's a huge help, right? That's kind of half the game right there. If you have participants that are willing to kind of like help you dig into the archive. Um, and I mean, we shot a lot. We did shoot a lot, but the thing is, we were very we spent a lot of time in pre-production, kind of honing the story and finding where our beats were, which was really, we had a very small timeline. We had about 7 months, 8 months from soup to nuts. Like, we basically did the entire series in about 7 months. So we had to move pretty diligently and shoot only what we needed, right? We couldn't really shoot a lot of fat. And so the production process was fairly straightforward. We didn't leave a lot to guesswork. We came in with a very strong sort of outline. Of course, stories come up, little vignettes come up, but the major beats we knew kind of going into the interview process. So we were able to get what we needed pretty quickly.
All right, all right. Now I gotta ask, because in being on Stars, being part of the Power Universe, the BMF universe, the 50 universe, whatever you want to call it here. How excited, and have you even taken a second to realize that the fans are going to really engage with this documentary, to the point that they're going to be comparing it towards the show, and trying to do the detective work to try to figure out things that are the same, things are different, obviously, painting two different timelines, even possibly two different narratives. But how have you kind of, if you have thought about it, how have you been kind of taking that in, thinking about knowing that like it's about to get crazy and this is just their next fix, our next
You know,
fix?
I kind of haven't really. I mean, the it's an interesting thing to do the definitive documentary, which you know, for all intents and purposes, it is. Like, there hasn't been a documentary that goes as deep as we do, and has Meech involved, right? I mean, like, if you say BMF, it's Big Meech, right? It's really
Yep.
kind of his story, and it's through his own words. Like, it's not other people talking about his story, it's him telling his own story. So you know we were just concentrated on that task. Was we wanted to tell the definitive story from both sides, a 360 look at, like, how they started, why they started, the environment that they came out of, how it grew, and their downfall. And that meant, getting and we wanted to also make sure that it was character driven. So it wasn't just
Yeah.
two-dimensional, representations of who Big Meech was, or we wanted to see their flaws. We wanted to see, and not only on the BMF side, on law enforcement. We wanted to meet the folks that you know were responsible for taking them down, and the inner workings of the organization, the brotherhood that they built. I think we did a good job of the cast and who we picked, to sort of paint that picture, that larger picture of what BMF really was.
Yeah.
It was a family organization. At the core of it, there was a lot of love. It
Yeah.
wasn't just about profit and money. These folks were family.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm not sure if that answers your question, but oh,
No.
but there will be, obviously, we there will be comparisons, because we interviewed the real people. Like, since it's only season 2, they're still in Detroit at this point, so that only represents a fourth of our documentary. It's only 2 episodes, so it has a lot to go.
Yeah.
But even in that fourth, in those 2 episodes, you're gonna meet the real Lamar. You're gonna meet the real 50 Boys. You're gonna meet the real Lucille. You know, you're gonna meet all of the real folks that are major characters in the show. So
yeah,
I think it's gonna be interesting to see that, you know, that dynamic and how what that creates for the scripted series.
Yeah, excellent answer there. And I know the fans are going to appreciate that as much as I do. Now, this is sort of a 2-part question. One has already sort of been answered, so I'm going to ask it second. And maybe you can say this, maybe you can't. I have checked out the first 3 episodes provided by Starz. So yes, you're right. The first 2 episodes does give you a feel of, you know, the story of what season 1 of BMF this series is. And the 3rd episode is truly about family. Like, I really appreciate that perspective. I've seen a ton of BMF content and kind of really feeling that. And this 3rd episode was unlike anything I felt in anything else I've seen BMF content wise. But there's also a very other unique circumstance that you have here that really separates this from anything else. You mentioned one, having Meech's presence on this is monumental. No other documentary has that. But you also have an opportunity as of May 5th, 2020. And I think a lot of folks want to know, and I want to know, and I don't know if you can say it, but will we have or see Terry in this at all?
Oh, I can't speak on that.
Ooh, that's the one we want to know. But I understand. I totally understand. And it will be, I mean, that literally is just God tier of documentaries of BMF is able to do so. So I will again come back into the second part of the question here is, well, beyond the things that you said, and obviously into specific details, what was sort of your purpose or sort of mission to really separate this BMF documentary unlike anything else we've seen? Because you do get to a point where you say, I've already seen this, and this. Why would I need to see this? And obviously with the Starz backing, with the momentum that the series is having, it seems like a no-brainer, but there still may be folks saying like, but why? So what was sort of your mission kind of wanting to drive folks to knowing that this is the premier one that you need to see?
Well, I mean, we just dig a little deeper than everyone else. You know, I think that's in the access that we have. You know, I think that's my daughter just came home from school. You know, it is hearing it from his mouth. You know, it's also, again, this is about character. This isn't just, you know, this happened and then this happened and then this happened. It's not a course of events. It's about how these events transpired, and the characters behind them and what their motivation was. It wasn't necessarily. I didn't want to do a one-dimensional sort of look at this timeline of events. You really want to understand where Meech comes from, where Terry comes from, their motivation, and hear it from their mouth. You know, this is something that this is their story. You know, as a documentarian, you just want to sort of sit back and let the drama unfold and be able to tie in those moments and create and weave a story together. But it's not my job to interrupt. It's my job to, you know, let the drama unfold and let the characters speak their truth.
Yeah. I think another word to kind of throw in there for you is you're humanizing them. I think that regardless of the events, understanding that the F and BMF is about family, and that wasn't just because they needed a 3rd letter. Again, the 3rd episode, you feel that. It's to the point that I kind of pseudo felt like, well, I guess I'm part of the family too, because it just felt that welcoming in terms of open door policy. You know, you see how he cared for his members, you know, and not just giving them money or buying them material, but actually making everybody feel like family. And I think that like,
sorry, but that's what drew me to the story in the first place. You know, that this isn't a typical drug empire story, you know, and what drew me to the story was that idea of family. You know, in writers' rooms, you often, you know, there's a post-it on the wall where every scene has to revolve around a phrase or a word. You know, when they were writing Godfather, that post-it was family. Every scene in The Godfather was about family in one way or another, you know. And for this, I felt that same sort of like, you know, Meech was influenced by those movies and by that ethos more than anything else, that family ethos and keeping the family dynamic sort of together. And yeah, you know, you felt it. You hear these stories with, you know, with Stephen Gore, the same guy that brought me all these tapes, you know, his handicapped brother, you know, being escorted, you know, in the front of the club, you know, nobody goes in the club. Meech says nobody goes in the club before, and hearing stories about him throwing money and having money fights with Usher at Magic City, it's just like, you know, you can't make this stuff up. It's really, you know, it is stranger than fiction.
Yeah. And I also want to say that I feel like this documentary also did something that was actually selfless. It actually did give a display into what, as being a Black African American in America, in these different cities, in these periods, what was the challenges of the uphill battles to just try to survive, you know. And they didn't just paint it in Detroit, but we went down to Atlanta, got a glimpse into LA, and you're seeing that, like, you know, at sometimes it was instinctual because we didn't have options here. And again, you know, despite differences on what you feel about drug dealing or whatnot, you really do see like the humanistic side of it. It's like, this is a guy that just wanted to do for his mother.
Yeah.
How can you not want to get behind that, you know?
Yeah. I mean, look, not to, you know, look, drug dealing is wrong, right? I mean, we don't want to glorify it, obviously, but it's a means to an end for a lot of folks, especially during that time in these circumstances. You know, like Detroit was crumbling, and the system failed that generation, you know, across the board. The criminal justice system, law enforcement, the social, you know, it was just decaying from the inside out. And that was another thread that we really wanted to follow, was this sort of, you know, this quote unquote war on drugs, right? Like starting from the 70s into the 80s, into the 90s, into the 2000s, how that changed the dynamics of it, you know, the moving from the Colombian cartels to the Mexican cartels, you know, and how that sort of, you know, changed the game, so to speak, and how they were moving along with all of these sort of movements and drug selling. The crack era, what happened before the crack era, you know, the violence that came along with that, and how they try to steer clear of it. So they were students of the game as well. They weren't just, you know, participants. They really understood the ups and downs of a successful drug organization.
No doubt. So I know I'm probably coming up on my time, so I just want to quickly ask two other real quick questions. One being about talking again about the production, the dramatization of scenes, that kind of fill in some of the gaps, but to also give us that depiction of events being told. Could you talk about assembling, you know, your cast for that, and just the filming process for that?
Well, my approach was always you know, with recreations, it's always a very tricky, subjective, you know, I never wanted to compete with the scripted show, you know, so I wanted the recreations to sort of live in almost a dream world, you know, like we often sort of, we don't show faces, it's usually silhouettes, it's sort of an indication, but you're not necessarily tied to anyone's, you know, acting essentially, or you know, dispositions. It's all sort of like lyrical in a way where we wanted to kind of hide the detail in a sort of dreamlike kind of state. That's why it's all sort of shot in slow motion. There's a lot of cross dissolves to sort of, you know, make it feel like a memory almost. And that was very intentional. And we wanted to also make it pop and look cinematic. So we you know, we utilized you know, very, you know, we had a film crew. We didn't skimp on the production value. We wanted to make it look beautiful as well.
As it is.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. We worked hard. It was hard. It was a race to get that done. It's often the things that are overlooked, it's done at the end of the production, but you know, to do it effectively, it's really hard.
I have to ask now, being a fan, 3 episodes, can't wait for the rest, but any chance you're getting a director's credit for season 2 of BMF?
Well, I think here's the thing: we cover the entire story in this documentary, so it is the real rise and fall of.
No, but the series, will you be? Is there a chance you may be stepping into a directing credit?
Oh man, that would be I'm certainly open to that. You know, absolutely. I'm a fan of the scripted show as well. So yeah, I mean, I think it's fully in production now. So I'm not sure if maybe season 3, but
oh yeah, yeah, you got to put it out there, man. Got to put it out there, and then it happens.
Yeah, sure.
And for my last question for you today is, I just want to know, I've seen the first 3 episodes, so I got a little bit of a momentum into what I can be expecting for the duration of the season. But for you, could you sort of just give a word as to fans, what are we getting on this 8-episode BMF documentary ride?
You're going to see the definitive story of BMF. You're going to see the rise and fall from and the phoenix that comes after the fall, you know, with Little Meech and the BMF series and the legend of BMF. You're going to see all of it. It is essentially, I'm hoping that it's the most definitive documentary series ever on BMF, and we can close the books after this.
Well, from what I've seen so far, you're definitely leading the pack. So
thank you. Appreciate that. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, fans, you can totally check out the BMF documentary, Blowing Money Fast, premiering September 23rd, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Starz and the Starz app. This is the director, Shan Nicholson. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. Hopefully we get to do it again very soon.
Awesome. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much. Bye.